Hello and welcome back to Geeky Port, your safe harbor in the world of all things nerdy. I am here once again with my faithful guest, Amy. Faithful? My dependable guest, Amy McFarlane.
Hello, what's up?
It's that season again. It's spooky Halloween season.
My favorite time of year.
Yes. Is it really? Do you think this is your favorite holiday of all holidays?
In terms of things that are actually holidays, yes.
Okay.
I would say my favorite real time of year is in May, because that's when my schedule gets a lot less crazy.
Okay.
But my favorite holiday is Halloween, and I love fall flavors, and I love fall colors, and 90% of my wardrobe is flannel.
Yes.
So
I'm with you. I don't like summer clothes. I don't like to show too much skin. So like sweaters, flannel, jeans, that's my vibe.
well, yeah, especially around here where it's just summers are ridiculously hot, winters are ridiculously cold, and spring is rainy and gross. So fall is just like a good, this year has been rainy and gross, but for the most part, it's really nice. Little chilly, little windy, but not disgusting.
Yeah. And other things that, are associated with the fall, like you brought up before, the leaves turning colors. That's always beautiful. The pumpkin flavored everything. Muffins, coffee, beer, ciders, wine. What other pumpkin flavored things are delicious?
There's pumpkin spice lattes.
Oh, yes.
I'm personally, as much as I do like pumpkin stuff, definitely like a apple cider person.
Mm-hmm.
I love apple. Well, I like apples anything. It's probably one of my favorite foods. But hot apple cider and there's apple cider teas and apple scented candles. Just, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
all
nice.
those, like fall scents and colors. It's just aesthetically, it's just a nice time. And we go to King Richard's Fair every year.
Absolutely.
We dress in fun costumes, and we go there and pretend we're in the 1600s, and we say huzzah a lot.
Yes, and we, I don't, but people around us drink mead.
Oh, so much mead.
So much, and eat turkey legs. Again, I don't, but other people around me do.
I think we had a colder season this year because my glass of mead wasn't completely surrounded by bees, which it was a nice change of pace.
Or, the world is dying and the bees are gone.
Oof.
So it's one of those two.
Yeah.
It was cold and, less bees.
Bees can live without us. We cannot live without bees.
No. And I cannot live without sweaters and scarves and other cozy things.
I can't live without mead. I mean, I think my liver just said something. Anyways, yeah, that's always part of our fall activities. Not that we can promote a commercial, a business during the show, but we do have a Halloween improv show coming up next Friday.
Yeah.
And you're going to be, if I remember correctly, donning the costume of a Mr. Frederick Krueger.
It's actually an accident because I was shopping for regular clothes, and they had a rack of returns that people had bought online that they don't sell in the store, and there happened to be a Freddy Krueger sweater dress that was my size, and I was like, if you insist, universe. And then in order to justify the purchase, it will have to be my Halloween costume and also something I just wear.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's not like a costume with like holes cut out of it and whatnot. Oh, it is.
It's kind of like in a fashiony way, so it has like that how ripped jeans have like the little tears. It has it on the sleeves and like towards the bottom.
It's artfully done.
And then it has like embroidered slashes in it.
Oh, fun.
So.
Okay. So might get some looks at work.
I don't think it's something
Cape Cod Mall.
I mean, I don't think at the mall. I feel like that's probably not even the weirdest thing they saw that day. But yeah, I don't know. So I might be able to wear it on Halloween at work, and that's about it.
Okay. Yeah. I might wear a costume for work. I don't know. Not something too, as you know, I am extremely professional. I do not have time for shenanigans. So I want to wear a costume that is more casual, perhaps not like maybe a furry suit. That's for weekends. That's for the conventions.
Okay.
But I think I will wear something that is more useful and comfortable. Oh, you know what I could wear? The coveralls that I bought for Janitor Upchuck for the seminal work of drama, #Crywolf.
But you've also done it for Watt League.
That's right. I was
as your wrestling character.
Also Janitor Upchuck. It was such a ridiculous character. I feel like I'm bonded to him. Yeah. But here's what happens though, and this is like how the universe affects my life. If I go somewhere wearing the janitor coveralls, there will be a toilet in that building that is malfunctioning, and I have to like plunge it or something, or lift up the, go into the tank and yank on the chain.
Now hear me out.
Yeah.
There's always the option of not doing manual labor at a place you don't work.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you want to avoid that altogether, there's always the option of just wearing a silly hat.
Oh, that's true. That's
like
fun.
a jester hat or a Viking hat. And then if you don't want people to have you make a joke or plunder a village. I don't know what appropriate things Vikings did. But then you could just take the hat off.
Right. Just be a normal person. Wait, I've got a meeting. That's going to be serious. So the horned helmet goes back to the office. It goes hidden away from prying eyes. But for the rest of the day, when I'm just going to the break room, I'm making my espresso. We have a espresso machine now.
Mazel.
Yes, Helen bought it. It's which is dangerous because I try not to over caffeinate, but it's so difficult when it's there all day and it's free.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's difficult. I have control issues.
That is something you should deal with a professional.
Yeah. We've covered, of course, dressing up at work, going to King Richard's Fair. What generally do you like to do? Oh, and eating pumpkin-related things. What do you like to do during the month of October?
I love seeing scary movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I try and see whatever's in theaters because it's new and I don't have to worry about predicting the end, hopefully. And then I also love, I go to school in Salem, so I try and be involved in what's going on, but also it's very crazy and busy.
Oh yeah, Salem, it's like Mardi Gras for them. Believe it or not, we've actually reached the end of our first segment. I'd like to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. We're just gonna take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about horror movies. How about that?
Yeah.
So, we'll be back.
Far into the future of dark fantasy, on a world parallel to our own, two unlikely heroes find themselves confined to a pit, a shadowy cavern far from civilization, where dwells the ultimate horror. Immer presents a Fantasy Madness adventure module, Mind the Trap.
And welcome back. Once again, I am Jamie, the host of Geeky Port. I'm here with Amy, if you're just tuning in, and we are going to be segueing from like, all things Halloween to specifically scary movies.
My favorite.
Mm.
I love scary movies. Probably more than any movie. Simply because even when they're predictable, there's still some excitement involved in it. So you get to solve a puzzle where you've tried to figure out what's going to happen. But then, I mean, it's going to sound weird to be like, I love when there's like people just being unalived and whatever. But some of my favorites are the ones that are like either really campy and cheesy, like Evil Dead, or the Evil Dead franchise, because it gets more campy as it goes on, or ones that really mess with your head, like Barbarian was really good.
That was very good.
It's probably one of the best psychological thrillers I've ever seen.
And that one did not follow a strict formula. I literally did not know where the story was going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love any situation where it's not like, oh, this is very obviously the final girl, and this is very obviously the bad guy, and this is very obviously like the inciting incident. I like that even with, they like followed every trope, but then didn't follow any tropes, where it's like the bad guy is dead. Just kidding, no, they're not.
Right.
But it was just, it was good.
I guess that's how the writer and the director would be playing with the emotions of the viewers by like following tropes to a point. Be like, oh, I know what's going to happen next. You don't say that out loud like a crazy person.
I was alone in the theater. I did.
Oh, I know what's going to happen next. Yeah, by playing into our expectations and then subverting them, that is what becomes the surprise, the suspense, the scary part. Yeah, specifically with like anything that comes out of A24 and like every Jordan Peele movie.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think of another director or studio where they specifically avoid, like the common plot structure of popular movies to specifically scare the audience.
Yeah, just it's so rare for me to like have these jump scares. So if anything can genuinely scare me, it automatically becomes like so high on the list.
Jump scares they can be described as cheap because you can overdo them.
Absolutely.
Or if the horror in the movie is only jump scares, like what makes that movie scary is the jump scares, then that's not one of my favorite horror movies. Like I like a really spooky atmosphere, like something that keeps me tense for the entire runtime.
I would say like the going too much into the jump scares would definitely be like the Paranormal Activity movies, where
But those are for like 12-year-olds.
The first one, you're like, okay, I like this. And then it's like, oh, and now we have the formula and we're just plugging in new names, or you're in a new town.
I try not to gatekeep the horror genre. So when someone says like, like, oh, I hate the paranormal movies, or the what's the that universe with the creepy nun and the creepy doll?
Oh, the Conjuring ones.
Right, the Conjuring universe. Whatever. I think they're for a younger audience. So it's kind of like baby's first horror. It's an introductory horror franchise.
Well, I think what makes the Conjuring movies and Insidious, I think, is still kind of in the same vibe, is the main people of the Conjuring movies, that married couple, are real people.
Yep.
And a lot of it's based off of actual experiences they did as paranormal investigators. And obviously it's zhuzhed up for Hollywood and everything, but I think it's just like, oh, there's a real family that was terrorized by something they couldn't explain. Right.
Yeah, and I think everyone's had that kind of feeling where it's just like there's something in the house. Like that kind of eerie feeling where it's just like you should be alone, but you're not. And if you can play that out in a ghost movie or found footage movie, whatever, then that becomes part of the horror. It should be relatable.
Well, that's like another thing I love about scary movies is ones that are something that could genuinely happen. There are very few movies that like messed me up for days. Like I'll like talk about it for a while afterwards, but like days, months afterwards. The big one was The Strangers. And it's a home invasion movie. And it was just like, and not a spoiler because it's in the trailer, there's like a point where you see the couple that's being terrorized like crying and like, why are you doing this to us? And they're like, because you were home. And as someone who lives kind of near a heavily wooded area, like I had to be walked to my door when I got home. So it was just like, I was like, yeah, no, that's like a real thing that could happen in your life, is someone can just be like, you were home, so I just decided to do horrible, unspeakable things to your family.
Do you think that's also why most horror movie protagonists end up being women? Because they can relate to that fear more acutely than a typical American male?
I feel like, yeah, a little bit with like, the, gender normative stereotypes and stuff. True. There's also the fact that more often than not, female actors are more attractive than male actors. So you sometimes just want to root for the most attractive person on your screen because that's how we're hardwired.
Right. And this is, of course, where the trope, the final girl, comes from. Like the woman, the actress that is going to survive all her friends.
Yep, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Exactly, right. That might have been the first final girl.
She invented the final girl trope. And Halloween is probably the first real like scary movie I ever watched. So hats off to John Carpenter for like basically inventing the slasher movie. And just so many other things. Believe it or not, we've actually reached the end of our segment, so we are going to go to break, just a brief break, and when we come back, horror TV shows? Yeah.
Horror TV shows. So stay tuned.
Someone to give me a room, huh? How about room service? Just need a stupid goddamn phone.
So now, you say you found something out there. You were saying?
Just a small farm. I don't even know if they own the place, but they came at me. And
let's just get him in the truck.
and then what?
You're not going to take him into town, are you?
Hey, you didn't happen to see a guy out there, did you? On your nature hike? He might have had a slight injury to the head.
You did that to him, huh? Beat him up like that?
You don't know what I know.
That damn farm. There's something happening here, and I don't know what it means. There's something wrong.
There's a shit storm coming our way.
Kidding. You serious? These people seem so... what's the word? Normal?
There's 250,000 ways to skin a cat. That's what public service is all about. We'll make this whole town a sacrifice.
Jesus, Tom. What have you been doing?
And we're back. We are going to be talking about horror-related television shows. So I know, like in the 90s, one horror, well, scary show that I watched on a regular basis was X-Files.
Yeah, I would say that probably, I'm not gonna say originated the genre because that would be Twilight Zone. But that would probably, be the most mainstream, long-term version of like scary TV shows or thriller TV shows simply because we're still talking about it. Like, with the exception of 1 or 2 episodes of Twilight Zone, I'm not sitting down and reciting the different episodes that I like about it.
But yeah, X-Files that did phenomenally well on TV. It's similar to something like, I don't know, The Mandalorian or Game of Thrones, where a show of a specific genre is so popular that normies watch it. you know?
Yeah.
Right. Like there's like some sci-fi shows that are just like too nerdy for like an average audience member, an average television viewer. But if the writing is good, if the writing is so good, then it almost doesn't matter what the genre is. Like everyone will just watch it.
Yeah, and I would say things like even Buffy the Vampire Slayer was another one.
Yeah, that's a
where
good example.
People probably weren't watching a lot of vampire stuff, but Buffy the Vampire, it took that whole teen drama or primetime soap opera and then added in that paranormal and supernatural aspect, and then we get Angel that came off of that, and people still watch Buffy. It's still very popular.
I would say Buffy's popularity was so strong that I would say it kind of set the pace for so many like horror related shows afterwards. Like I think like there's dozens of CW shows that they just feel like Buffy shows, where it's just like you have these like wisecracking protagonists and you have like love triangles and like all these tropes. I think were maybe not invented but popularized with Buffy.
Yeah, and it also like lends to kind of like the same thing with the movies, like that campiness that makes that scary stuff work for TV, especially on major networks.
Yeah.
So that's how you get things like Riverdale,
right?
Like, that kind of campiness. And I'm going to really try not to talk about it for the whole time. Supernatural has its moments like where it is really scary, but that campiness and there's a humor to it that works, where it takes that trope of like monster of the week, but then overarching storylines and just seamlessly puts it into, and that's how you get 15 seasons and beyond for a long time.
Yeah, that was popular, and I think a lot of these shows, especially that run on for like 10 plus seasons, I think most of their popularity is due to the fact that they are character based and the characters are interesting and you just want to watch those characters do things. It doesn't matter really what, it's just they're firmly defined characters that you just want to see more of in their various adventures.
Yeah, and it's the
Charmed
easiest shows to cosplay.
Yeah.
Because you just wear your regular clothes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The witches in Charmed didn't dress in like Renaissance gear. They were modern day witches.
And the same thing with like American Horror Story, where that goes the other way, where it's not campy. It's scary. It messes with your head.
Right.
But they found ways to make it palpable in those hour-long segments where you like the characters and the actors.
Right. Yeah. And I think honestly, that's why, to bring it back to X-Files, that's why that show ran for so many seasons, because people liked Scully and Mulder, and like they're like are they going to get together? It's like everyone wanted to ship them. When they finally kissed during the movie, it was like this big event. Actually, to bring it back to like the beginning of the show, when we were talking about like what makes horror related is things that are in fiction but relate to things in real life, which I hesitate to say real life too much, because like X-Files dealt with a lot of cryptids, which are like real life phenomena. So like extraterrestrial sightings, but also Mothman, shadow people. Like I'm sure they did an episode or two about like Bigfoot or Sasquatch. These kind of things, like what if all those things existed in real life, and we're going to devote an episode where Mulder and Scully go out and investigate this. So I think that was part of the fun. Like, it would be interesting to have like just a vampire episode, but it's not a vampire show. A show about, poltergeists, but the whole series isn't about ghosts.
Yeah.
I would say mostly they defaulted back to extraterrestrials because that's what Spooky Mulder was obsessed with, the poster that I used to have in my office, the I Want to Believe poster with the flying saucer from like a very famous photograph from the 1950s during the UFO craze.
I wouldn't know. I wasn't alive.
I wasn't either.
Sure.
But yeah, Twilight Zone, definitely, that predates all of this. Alfred Hitchcock Presents was another similar show where like each episode was a self-contained mystery. Yeah, usually a murder mystery, like in the vein of his movies. Netflix, there's a anime series based on Castlevania.
There's also that Stranger Things. I think that might be popular.
Stranger Things, yes. Eventually, they're going to shoot the final season, right? I think the actors are all in their
40s.
Yeah, it's very sad.
We'll see.
It'll be about their children.
I mean, no one to blame but themselves for that one.
But Stranger Things is great. And to go back to like the 80s, like I love how it is set in the 80s, because then you can do all these 80s tropes, but subvert them in a way where you think you know what's going on, because this feels like a Stephen King miniseries, or this feels like, Friday the 13th, which had a TV show for a while. But then they can change it up to keep the audience, on the edge. And of course, the cast is really good. Again, it's mostly character-based. There is the central conceit of the Upside Down, this alternate dark universe that exists in another dimension, like all around us, but we just don't see it. And there's Vecna and the Demogorgon, which are these demonic creatures that live only in that dimension. Or if they break free, like into our dimension, then that's really bad news. So we have to like push them through portals. So yeah, that's a really good show. The cast is really good. Some of them have gone on to do other horror movie roles or other horror TV shows. Who's the redhead in Stranger Things? She was in that Fear Street trilogy.
Oh, I don't know what her real name is, but she's Max.
Yes. Sadie is the actress name. Max is the character name.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we've actually reached the end of our third segment. And we're going to take a brief break. And when we return, we're going to close out this whole fantastic, spooktacular show. Stay tuned. And we're back for the fourth and final segment here on our special Halloween episode of Geeky Port. If you're just tuning in, I'm here with Amy McFarlane, and we could talk about costumes.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
We could talk about costumes.
I grew up with the coolest handmade costumes. I didn't make them. My mom made them. She's a creative genius. And some of the best ones were just stuff that like I enjoyed like either playing if it was a video game character, or like, enjoyed watching if it was a TV show or a movie character, and she would make it from scratch, like, or buy a pattern and create it from there. One of my favorite costumes was a Pac-Man costume, and it was like this, like a harness, I guess, like maybe a plastic or cardboard harness, and then all of this around me was like a cheese wheel. It wasn't cardboard on the outside. I think it was yellow fabric, so I could kind of see through it as well. And that was like the outside of Pac-Man shell, whatever Pac-Man is. So, and then there was like the big open mouth with black translucent fabric, so I could see more easily, like directly in front of me. But if a car was going by, I'd see like, the light pass me through like that semi-translucent yellow fabric. But it was really neat. And like Pac-Man's eyes were like these, like felt shapes on both sides. So it's like from any angle, it was like almost like a 3-dimensional version of 2-dimensional Pac-Man. Because he was flat. He wasn't like all round. I think in canon he's round, right? In Super Smash Brothers?
Yeah, well, for sure. Because, I mean, 3D didn't exist at the time. So I feel like it's the suspension of disbelief. Like, this is a round sphere thing that just, I'm like, through the universe. But, I mean, I didn't have a lot of elaborate costumes as a kid. Like, as a baby, I wore whatever was first my sister's costume. So, super baby, and then a pumpkin one year.
Sure. My brother got a lot of my hand-me-downs too.
And then when I started doing dance or theater, a lot of our old costumes from that got turned into something. So like an old ballet dress got turned into a fairy costume.
That's fun.
But as I got older and started like playing with like effects makeup and learning how to make things myself, I got to do some really elaborate fun things for, parties that friends were hosting. As you've seen, I've done the Scarecrow, and I got to do like a burlap effect on my skin. I've done a witch where I painted myself green like a crazy person, and I looked like I had jaundice for like a month after.
Oh, it didn't wash off?
So the blue comes off really easy, and it leaves behind like a yellow tint to your skin. So you have, even though I spent like maybe 3 different full washes, there was still like a yellow tint for a while. It took a long time for it to like go away.
That's interesting. So my equivalent would be, so back in the 90s when I first got introduced to public access TV, I was making a show, like a half-hour show that ran at midnight. It was called Fantasy Madness, and it was composed of like horror, sci-fi, and like fantasy, like very short movies, like 5 or 10 minute movies. Just played back to back to back, and so if we were making a horror movie, like one, if not all of us, would be like covered in fake blood by the end of the movie, and red, like the red food dye in the fake blood that we were using, that stayed with us for like several days afterwards. So if I was going to my work, I guess back then it would have been the Factory Outlet Mall. Yeah, I would be working at like Bugle Boy, like with this like I'm not dripping with fake blood, but it's like my parts of my face and hands just stained red, and people would like get my attention. Oh, do you have this in medium? And like kind of look at my face, and I'm like just like it's okay. This isn't real blood. I was working in a horror movie.
Well, they might have just thought you had a weird rash, and they were like, is it catching? Like, I don't know if I want to touch anything you've touched. But yeah, no, that's still a problem with fake blood, is it does stain. Yep.
Although the fake blood that we used in the Scottish play that you and I were in at Cape Cod Theatre Company, that did not stain my skin because I think it was made with dishwashing detergent?
Yeah, there was. So anything that was not like used as like something that you would drink and have to spit out,
Yeah.
like kind of thing, had soap in it.
Right.
So it didn't adhere to the skin as easily. But there are, if you want to spend the money, there are fake bloods that when you pour it on you, it then dries and it keeps looking like it's wet blood, but it kind of like becomes like a jelly almost.
Ooh.
So it peels off and then it doesn't really stain your skin. It's just very expensive.
Okay.
And I learned that the hard way of how expensive it is because it runs out real fast.
Geez. What we would do for our movies, if it had to be blood that was spat out, I think we would take like cherry high C or some red high C, and then add food coloring to that to make it like darker red. But if it was blood that had to stay on our clothes or our face, we added red food coloring to Caro corn syrup.
Yeah.
Which, didn't have quite the right consistency, but if it was just something that just had to be like a constant, drippy look out of like an open wound on our head or our hands or chest or whatever, then it was good for that because you could like do several takes, and because it was kind of gelatinous, it just stayed where it was.
I mean, I'm gonna rock your world right now. Cornstarch is a thickener.
Okay.
So it does a really good job of like thickening up. You could do like a little red liquid, and then you just put some cornstarch in it, and then let it sit for a minute, and it just becomes something that will drip down.
Okay.
But it kind of holds the consistency of like actual blood better.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. Either way, you don't want to get it into your hair. It's I was after we wrapped the Scottish play, each performance, I remember specifically because you had to blood me up as King Duncan. It was just like my I would be cleaned off like well enough so you don't see any of the blood stains, but my eyebrows and like this part of my hair would just be almost like I use like gel on it. It'd just be sticky and solidified. It was not the most pleasant of feelings. So, and it got on my pillows because I couldn't comb it all out. And I didn't want to take a shower because showers wake me up and I was just wanted to go to sleep. But anyways, so yeah, costumes. I've been E.T., I've been a Jawa, which was actually a fairly easy costume. That was a kind of a reddish-brown robe with black translucent fabric, so similar fabric that was used in the in my Pac-Man costume. And then so there was glasses that had like little LED lights. Like they were basically like glasses. I don't think they had like, they might not have even had like plastic here, but they were like just frames that you wore, and they had like little glowy lights because I think in the back there was a battery pack that kept them on. And from the outside, you would just see the glowy little dots through the hood. So it would look like, as you know, like Jawas have glowing eyes.
I don't know,
eyes.
so.
You've never seen the first Star Wars movie?
I have, but once, and maybe 15, 20 years ago.
All right, well, that's fair. We have reached the end of not only this segment, but the entire episode.
We did it.
We did it. We did it again. Every year we do a Halloween episode, so this has been one of them. So I'd like to thank you, the viewer, for watching, and just have a happy Halloween.
We here at the Galactic Federation have come to realize the truth about these recent attacks.
I believe you all know why we're here today. Why you've come to this gathering.
This just in, breaking news out of Eugora. The planet is in mass lockdown after several of its major capitals have been decimated due to a series of bombings. Casualties are being reported in the hundreds of thousands. This marks the second planet in the last month to undergo an attack.
The Galactic Federation is officially declaring these attacks acts of terrorism. And under Lindarian law, any and all terrorist acts will be prosecuted to the fullest extent.
Prince Lindarian and the Galactic Federation believe they can bring balance to this galaxy. But we know the truth.
I'm confident I have a more suitable resource. As of this evening, I received an alert about a possible suspect. I then dispatched a small team of officers led by Sergeant Avex.
I'm sorry, you did what?
Admiral, where exactly did you send these officers?
The Federation does not care for you. You are merely pawns who are forced to obey. But together, we can overthrow them. And as they fall, we will rise. Follow me, my brothers. And this galaxy will be yours.
So what seems to be the problem here? This asshole won't comply? Why don't you show me some ID before I make you, little boy? God damn.
Wasn't expecting you so soon.
It's not like I had anything else to do.
I didn't get your name. You said you didn't attend the showing yesterday?
No, I didn't attend your open house.
Anyhow, you're townies. That makes my job easier. I don't have to lay it on so heavy. How this area is our little secret.
About that, the marsh we passed on the way in, aren't we in a flood zone?
Base has been dumping munitions and fuel here for a while.
I see a light on. Do you have gas?
I didn't see a light.
Right there, in the basement. I see a light.
Hey! What you got there, hon?
Not really sure. Oh, what died?
You're so sensitive. It's just a little musty.